Knoll Nation, welcome in to another episode of the Renegade Rundown. As always, I've got my beautiful co-host with me here, the lovely and beautiful Jen Santee, aka Jen Santee 1890 on X. And then below us, right here in the middle, we have our buddy Danielle Kelley, attorney at law here in the state of Florida, and a veteran here on the Renegade Rundown. And boy, do we have a show for you guys today. By the end of this one, you're going to be feeling pretty good about the future of the FSU, get a few laughs in, and a bunch of crucial information. Before we get started, just to give a kind of summary of what's going on, today was the first kind of actual court hearing after all the amended filings and everything in North Carolina at the Mecklenburg courthouse. Doug Rohan was in attendance, live streaming Dave Hale, or live tweeting David Hale from ESPN, a couple, two or three different other people. So we were able to get a pretty good idea between who was tweeting different comments. You were able to get a pretty good full, transcript and idea of what's going on. And there's three or four major points, but a couple issues I want to touch on that all three of us has talked about as recently. I think you were here last Friday, Danielle. I get my days mixed up, but last week, at least for sure, there's some key points with these two lawsuits. One of the biggest ones we've talked about over and over again with just about everybody is how the ACC kind of contradicts itself in each case, constantly contradicting themselves. Well, that came out today. The judge wasn't having it. He had questions, and we'll get into the details. Another one is an analogy that I've shared over and over again. It's like the dean at my high school. When the teacher gets mad, they drag this kid down there. Okay, you're giving this kid 2-week suspension. He's getting 3 licks. You're going to call his parents, and then we're going to have a hearing. No questions asked. Okay, well, you think that dean's going to be mad at this kid and find out what he did. But no, he's pissed off at the teacher because the school hired him to do a job, to find out what happened and dole out the discipline. Well, it's the same thing with a judge and a lawyer. And I'm going to pull up the different comments, but multiple times, even the ESPN lawyer who did much better job than the ACC lawyer, they're telling this judge, oh, it's not up for debate, judge. This isn't material, judge. We get to decide whether it's material. So it was really funny, and the judge wasn't having that either. He really called that out and laid it out for him like, no, this is my decision. A third kind of really big point is the whole material versus immaterial litigation when it comes to when they initially filed the suit on December 21st or 22nd versus when they finally go to get a vote to actually, sue a member institution. Well, the judge, again, really took him to task on that one. So it was a whole lot of fun. I really want to know, kind of you guys' first thoughts before we start at the beginning and go through it. But we can let our special guest, Danielle, the lawyer in the building, go ahead, and then I want to hear Jen's take, and we can go from there.
Overall, and today, of course, being the day, I know people get so confused on these cases. So just to clarify really quickly, we have 4 lawsuits now pending. Now, what all of it started with was the ACC filing suit against Florida State and North Carolina. That is what Florida State moved to dismiss. The ACC also filed a motion to seal the documents related to the lawsuit. That was also heard today. The Florida hearing on the Florida case, because we filed suit here, is on April 9th. And then Clemson, obviously, this week has filed suit in South Carolina, and the ACC has filed suit against them in North Carolina. That's separate for now. So right now, we're just dealing with what happened in North Carolina today. Takeaways, for me, and yeah, I've read Doug's post, I've read David Hale's post, and watched some footage on what actually happened up there for show-wise, podcast-wise. It seems like the judge is being very fair to both sides and giving both sides a fair shake. And that's something that a lot of people would like to bring up, home cooking and judges and stuff like that. But like we've discussed on the show, judges have to be judges at the end of the day. And this judge did seem to have some serious issues with the vote issue and material and immaterial litigation, and kind of took some jabs at the ACC at one point, where he's basically saying, you opened this lawsuit, and if the GOR was held invalid, all these other schools, you would be facing millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, in trouble. How is that not material? And so he did take some really big issues with that, with the vote issue.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a big hell yeah moment. But What were your initial takeaways, Jen? How are we feeling today?
Well, I mean, I feel good. I wish that I think it was the Attorney King would have picked up a little bit more on that voting filing questioning from the judge. And again, I mean, when you're up there taking all those questions, it's a totally different scenario and it's a very hard thing to do. There were some things that I think at the beginning that the ACC lawyers seemed to look a little better at, or their arguments were better, and then they freaking crash and burn. And by the way, the ESPN lawyers crash and burn too. Like this was,
We can
I
start
was
with that
stuck.
motion to seal because that's kind of the freshest thing in our
Motion to
in our memory.
seal.
The motion to seal
Okay.
that ESPN and the ACC were fighting for, because like Jim was alluding to, yeah, the ESPN lawyers got caught
Like,
up
that
there
was
with their
bad.
dick in their hand, for lack of a better term. They're up there talking, about why it should be sealed, and then somebody taps them on the shoulder, and maybe one of y'all can has more information on that, because it's like, oh,
That was
ESPN
Lamb.
just released the whole thing.
That was Lamb came in and said that. Lamb came in and said that and said, excuse me, why is it you aren't fighting this in Florida? When you want to seal it in North Carolina, you're not filing it in Florida, and yet you've released the information in Florida.
Absolutely. Lamb was the attorney, but somebody told the ESPN team that,
I didn't
ESPN
see that part.
had just
Okay.
made the decision. ESPN PR made the decision to release the entire grant of rights. And basically what they're standing there, the way I understood it, what they were arguing about to the judge, they kind of got caught with their pants down, and that was it. There was no more comments. ESPN just, that was it. Was I the only one that caught that, or did I misread that?
I don't know. All I heard was that the ESPN people were like, "Oh yeah, we didn't file in Florida and we haven't met with Florida State. That was kind of a mistake. We probably should have done that. We reached out to them, but they haven't responded."
Yeah,
it was
hilarious.
A weird exchange. So, I think maybe both of us may have read this wrong. But I really
we're talking about two
like,
separate things.
Okay.
But
all right. So what are you saying that ESPN was tapped on their shoulder for then?
Like, Lamb was definitely the one that, like, what you're talking about is a separate situation. When at the end, after the judge said everything you're talking about, he had 4 minutes at the end, and the judge is asking him the questions about exactly what you're talking about. And when he was giving his answer, in the middle of it, he goes, "Oh, well, ESPN PR actually just decided to release the entire thing."
Okay, so you're talking about when they released it in Leon County. That's what you're talking about?
No, Jane. The lawsuit today. At the motion to seal, at the very end, after everything you just said, the ESPN lawyer got 4 more minutes to speak. And while he was speaking, answering the judge's questions, he said, "Oh, never mind, ESPN PR just decided to release the entire grant of rights." And everything in Florida. So it's like all that became moot.
Yeah, that's what I just said, was they released it in the Florida case, right?
Yeah. That was Lamb's argument.
Doug tweeted that out where Stone, he said, Stone is done, Corn next. ESPN has not gone down to Florida. Corn emailed counsel for FSU and expressed that this might have been a mistake and asked FSU to talk with them. FSU never responded. Today is the first time they have spoken. Corn just learned that the ESPN PR department put out the entire complaint themselves in its entirety.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what I meant. So sorry. Maybe it's me.
No, it's not. I think
just a misunderstanding.
Yeah, I'm talking in circles here, guys. Sorry. But yeah, I think it was a piss poor performance by really the ESPN attorneys were just shockingly bad. I was stunned by it. To be fair, I was really like, the ACC lawyers to me were so polished. They were so, especially in the first 30 minutes, like everything went, I was like, man, these are some great attorneys. I don't know like how you can get, I mean, they were doing a good job. I'm not gonna lie about it.
Yeah, they did. They did a good job.
It went to hell in a handbasket real quick.
Yeah, the first motion, the motion to dismiss, I thought was pretty even. I agree. Yeah. I thought, the judge even caught FSU a little bit. napping to where he really made us agree that, okay, well, the case law is extremely similar between North Carolina and Florida. So that isn't a real good argument. But they kind of moved on to the next argument. The issue with the ACC, and especially Cooney in the second motion, in the motion to steal, he just would not stop arguing. Like the judge just kept giving him chance after chance after chance. And he just kept going back to arguing the fact that December 12th was immaterial. And it's like you guys said, I couldn't imagine. I've never been
really
a lawyer.
weak.
It's hard to move on your feet, but it just seemed like there should have been somebody jumping up and down. And then poor Sarah Stone, I thought she got taken to the cleaners.
Yeah.
I thought that was the most lopsided one of the whole day, was at the very end.
I think the first attorney tagged somebody in, if I'm not correct, right? He brought in a different attorney to make the last arguments, even though I don't even think those went well, if you ask me. I mean, at the end of the day, and Danielle, you're the attorney. I'm not. I only did pre-law, so I am not anywhere close to you. My darling, I'm going to just, refer to you always. But my thing is, if the ACC filed first improperly, doesn't everything get thrown out? How does it not?
That is like the most valid point, because what they're arguing is we went back and amended to add these claims, and we were just getting a vote on the claims. We weren't getting a vote to sue FSU.
Then you should have had a vote on the first one.
Then you should have had, because you cannot treat an amended complaint by saying the original complaint is completely invalid and we went back and we did this now. You can't do that because it's an amended complaint. It's still an amendment. That does not change. So if you're saying the original complaint is invalid and really didn't mean anything, but you're just doing this now, then it's all invalid.
Then you filed second. Then you filed second.
Then you filed on January 12th. That's what you did.
And again, I think with me, it's like everybody's saying, well, they've already assigned the judge in the Clemson case. But for me, Clemson filed first. So if the Florida State case gets out first, gets thrown out, right? Or just because they didn't file first.
Right. No.
Yeah, it was.
I'm really confused on this one.
Yeah. Clemson filing suit, honestly, it kind of beefs up the North Carolina jurisdiction thing, though.
I know, because it really does. It really
does, because the ACC filed suit against them. Their courts like efficiency, and would you want, and that the judge kind of alluded to that today. Why would I let Florida and South Carolina decide this separately when, that's all kind of here? Now, if North Carolina files suit, then yeah, we're likely going to end up in North Carolina. I mean, that is something that has definitely changed. When they filed suit against Clemson, that became a concern of mine. I was like, okay, I got a feeling we're all going to end up in North Carolina. But the good news is the judge sounds fair.
He does sound very fair, and he doesn't seem to be buying anything that the ACC was laying down, other than the one argument I think that they had. Well, actually, I think it was ESPN's argument that they agreed with when they brought in the Pepsi versus Coke thing.
Yeah, Coke's been around for 100 years, but we don't know the formula. Oh dear God.
So but again, like, I really did not hear this judge look at the ACC or ESPN, except for maybe a couple times, that said that they weren't being fair. I did not see anything that said that there was any bias in that judge, to be honest. And if North Carolina joins suit, I think that helps us out a lot more, guys. A lot more.
Yeah, without a doubt. Look, I was worried about the home cooking and everything like Danielle talked about and Jen just talked about. But after seeing the whole thing unfold today, no, I'm a big fan. And I tweeted that I really, really like this judge. He's equal opportunity. If FSU was saying something that didn't make sense, he was jumping their butt. But I feel like the ACC definitely got the majority of the razzes there, and he definitely let them have it. One of the funniest moments of the whole thing was basically the judge was explaining to the ACC what they would have had to done for their argument of December 21st not being immaterial. And he asks the guy, "Is this what you meant? Is this what it says in your initial briefing?" And the guy says, "Well, no, apparently not, but that's what I intended to do." And it's like the whole freaking place laughs. And it's just like, I mean, how much better than that can you get? And again, on the motion to seal, I believe it was that motion, that argument, they pointed out, one of the reasons FSU wants to look at this thing, they pointed out right in front of the judge. They said, look at here. We asked the ACC the same question 3 different times, and we got 3 different answers. One time they said it was this, one time they said it was that, and one time they said it was this. And you don't get, any more clear to that is like, we got to see, how is that possible? How can they ask you the same question and you use 3 different phrases each time? Like it can't say all 3.
Yeah. One of the key issues, though, and a takeaway from today, and I want everybody to remember, is public records law, sunshine law in Florida. That was also a big issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that came up I know Doug tweeted out, that was one of the tweets I saved, where Stone was arguing it's not up for debate. The agreement between ESPN and the ACC clearly says it's confidential. The ACC can share the agreement with members so long as the members agree to keep the document confidential, to which Judge Bledsoe jumps in and finishes the sentence of this paragraph, subject to the laws of the state of the member to whom disclosure is made.
Yes.
So sunshine law is not going anywhere, y'all.
The magic 10 words. Not.
It's really not. And the other thing I was thinking of, and there is a Supreme Court case, y'all. I mean, Danielle, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but Antonin Scalia, I believe, wrote the opinion that said anybody, you cannot punish someone for doing something that they are legally required to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. And
so the ACC's argument at the beginning was that Florida State had, been public about it, barking about it, put it on their, their meeting list or whatever. But they were legally required to do that by the state.
Yes. And Scalia is a strict constructionalist, so you're going to have to follow procedure, especially with his opinion.
And so I don't know. Again, if you get around this at the beginning, if the initial filing was wrong, I don't know how they get around this, but I do get that it can happen because if Clemson filed suit and then it's already been assigned. But again, Clemson filed suit first, so this just makes my head's exploding.
It is. It's because that is the differentiation between Florida State and Clemson. They've sued us first. Clemson sued them first. So that is it. Because we're going to eventually, I know y'all got to get the super chats and stuff, but I know eventually we're going to have to talk about a potential motion for consolidation of those 2 cases in North Carolina, which I suspect is coming now. So
yeah,
for sure.
I think that's why they got away for that stay of discovery too, right?
Yeah. I think that's exactly where we're headed with this, especially if North Carolina files suit, that's over. So, I mean, that's just, you're going to end up there. But it's fine. And it's kind of like the judge alluded to, in so many words, as Doug said earlier, the judge has his papers graded too. There's always appellate courts. If Florida State and Clemson don't like a ruling, then they can take it up on appeal. If he refuses to dismiss on the grounds of this vote or whatever, and Florida State finds some way, or we get to the merits of this and Florida State still thinks that's a big enough issue, at that point, Florida State can take that up on appeal. No judge wants to get overturned on appeal.
No, they don't. They really don't.
They really don't. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's how things change. That's why you're seeing these 9-0 Supreme Court decisions in these NIL cases and stuff, because nobody wants to be the guy on the wrong side of history or, kind of on the wrong side of a public opinion. So he's going to have his I's crossed and his T's. I said that backwards. His I's dotted and his T's crossed.
We know what you meant.
Let's read Chuck Stone's $5 super chat. He says, what do you all make of what he will render or when he will render his decision? Will it be before April 9th? The same date of our trial in Leon County. So Chuck, and I'd love to hear her opinion on it, but the judge came out and said that, give me some time. You're going to get a written answer and it will be sometime. And he said pretty strongly, hopefully before April 9th. So I'm not sure when you guys are thinking. I imagine he'll take it up pretty close, maybe the 7th or the 8th. But what you guys were alluding to, I think a stay is extremely likely, just due to the fact on that motion to dismiss, just due to the fact of the other cases. He may want to say, okay, let's see what happens with Clemson's. If we're going to combine them, is UNC going to join? But I feel really strongly that the motion to seal is going to get get canceled, get thrown out. But we'll have to see. I agree with Jen that on the merits of it, really, I could see the motion to dismiss happening too. But with the other cases coming in with so much, that would be a bit of surprise. But we could, as Danielle said again, we could appeal it. It's not over. This thing, FSU had their answers. It goes back to what we've talked to all along. The ACC and ESPN is arguing semantics and trying to tell the judge how to apply the law. FSU is coming with facts, pointing at documents, and providing like legitimate case law. So I feel a lot better after seeing how this all went down about what we've all talked about and stuff, because you really don't know it until it happens. But I guess go ahead next. Sorry. My mouth is running.
April 9th is just the reverse of what happened today for everybody else. That is the ACC's motion to dismiss or on the alternative stay filed here in Florida against Florida State for the complaint we filed. So that's going to be heard. However, there's a lot of stuff going on in North Carolina, obviously, now that could, maybe we end up staying it. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. So we'll find out. But yeah, the judge is supposed to issue his ruling before then. He mentioned that, and that's not abnormal. I mean, a ruling from the bench was highly unlikely today. I've been to tons of motion to dismiss hearings. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. In a case like this, where both sides have submitted heavy legal arguments, lots of case law, and basically they just got up and hit their bullet points today, the judge will take that all under advisement, and the stuff of the hearing, you know, a court reporter obviously was there, and we'll have a transcript of that for him to read, and then he will issue a written ruling, especially if either side could potentially appeal in a high profile case like this. So
now, do you think the judge is going to allow them to go back and refile?
I think that would.
Or do you think they're going to throw out the initial complaint? Maybe they split the baby and say the initial complaint is out, only the second complaint is in. Does that make sense?
I don't know if you can do that. That's the thing.
I don't think you can. I'm just asking the question.
No, you're right. That's the thing. And I know people wonder that, but there's a relation back. The amended complaint is amending the original complaint. So if you throw, one out, you're throwing it all out. You would have to refile. I have never in my life seen that happen.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. So like, that's why I asked the question, is there a way that the judge can dismiss without precedent or without prejudice and allow I said North Carolina. I mean, the ACC to refile first.
Yes, and that's what we've been saying for a long time.
That's what I was worried about. Yes.
Go ahead and dismiss. Go ahead and dismiss without prejudice. Have them take the vote. I mean, well, shoot, if they have enough people to even take a vote now, because I
just don't know if you can. Can you get away with that though? Can you get away with that and then do a revote? Because it seems like it would be a different vote. And I would think Florida State would be able to argue that vote could be different if they had done it in the appropriate manner. I
agree. No, I mean, that is an argument. That is absolutely an argument.
So like I said, my mind is just going
now. You've already got Clemson suing them now. You've got the UNC Board of Trustee chair upset and making comments. Who are you taking a vote of?
Yeah.
At this point?
I just, like I said, I'm just thinking, I was just wondering if that is something that a Florida State person could, if the judge came back with that ruling, could that be an argument? Because for me, there was a case in, I believe it was Missouri and California that said, sure, this vote wasn't taken and you're allowing them to refile, but the refiling seems like it's a different opinion because it wasn't done at the time that they needed it to be done.
Yeah.
And then that got thrown out by the Supreme Court. So I don't know.
And things have changed. It is very new territory that we're really, I know there's case law on point in North Carolina, and that's probably why the judge was kind of honing in on this vote issue today. There is case law in North Carolina that you have to do it this way. So that may be the issue. I mean, but can Florida State later raise that as an argument? Yeah, because I mean, you've already got another university suing them. You're going to have UNC suing them. This isn't going to be a clear vote like it really would have been.
Yes.
In December. This is going to be a vote with members fully aware of the litigation that's going on right now.
Yeah, so I think even for both sides, it seems like it would be an unfair thing for them to come back and try and revote.
I
So
agree.
I don't see the judge coming back and saying that because, again, both sides, you're going to have other teams going, oh, I'm just going to vote no because then I can get out of this shithole. You know what I mean?
Or some like Miami voting to stay in because they don't know where they're going to go. Just whatever.
Or because they're not a top university in Florida.
Yeah. Or regardless, of kind of what happens, you've lost the race to the courthouse at that point. If you're having to refile and do all that. So it's not that big of a deal. I agree with both of you guys exactly on that. That was a beautiful kind of point to make there. As far as what y'all are talking about on the sunshine law is one of my favorite ones. And we saw that Rohan's in the chat. So maybe he's got some extra comments for us. But Judge Bledsoe, and just the fact that, he really did understand the sunshine laws. I think he really did a good job of hearing FSU stuff and really giving them the fair shake. He says, Judge Bledsoe understands the FSU argument that the sunshine laws mandate disclosure. Trade seeker exceptions do not apply. What is the ACC's response? Stone says, if we were in Florida and the documents were produced, and they dragged ESPN into court, litigation, and if the judge found that the shadow of the Sunshine Law was cast upon the entire ACC, then maybe we would be talking about the Sunshine Law forcing disclosure. But we are in North Carolina. I just figure maybe, Danielle, you can explain how ludicrous that is, and that is absolutely not how the Sunshine Laws work.
It's absolutely asinine because, and the judge even said today, he's fully capable if this case stays in North Carolina of applying Florida law.
Absolutely.
Where it's necessary. So you're not going to get around the Sunshine Law because here's the thing. Florida State, and I know I keep saying this, Florida State has a responsibility and an obligation to its university and its members and to the state. We are a public university. Florida State has to provide those documents if asked. That is a given. If you file a public records request, Florida State has an obligation to provide that. Is there a party preventing them from doing so? And that is something we have to consider. And yes, I'm very pleased that the judge took a hard line on, the law can be different in different states on this because it really is. Florida is known for this. You really are going to have to argue. Which is why the ESPN argument was so ludicrous that when they argued that they have not tried to prevent that from becoming public in the Florida lawsuit because they didn't want to bring it to light that there's these big confidential documents and then everybody's going to want to go find them. That part of it, I don't know if y'all caught that. It was asinine. It's like, we just don't want to bring it up because then everybody knows it's out there.
Yes. Oh, no, I caught it.
It was just like, Yeah, well, so that's because in Florida, if somebody asks for it, they're going to have to turn it over. I'm sorry. The Sunshine Law is the Sunshine Law. You're not getting around that. And there is no trade secret in this. I can't even believe they brought up Coke, but that's okay. I'll let that go.
Well,
sorry, guys. I kind of got
something that Pepsi was popular in North Carolina. Does anybody else need a reason that North Carolina is not Southern anymore other than that? Seriously? Are you joking with me? Is that really what a North Carolina lawyer said? Well, Pepsi's really popular here and y'all want to be in the South? Baby.
No, that ain't happening.
Is monopoly money okay? Because this is not the same thing. It's not.
The same thing.
Sorry. Not in the South, darling. Not in the South.
No.
You say Coke, I could mean a Diet Coke. I could mean a Coke. I could mean Diet Dr. Pepper.
Exactly.
I can mean anything. But what I don't mean is Pepsi. That's what I don't mean. Okay, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I that comment hurt. It's like, because we're on the FSU side, it was kind of a shot to the gut. But once you got farther in the conversation, Coke has a secret recipe. They've got like a particular flavors that they put in and a way they cook it and all that stuff. That's not what's going on here. And that was proven when, as soon as they start arguing that, what about $3 billion? There's this whole deal that y'all just put out. That's discovery, right? They didn't really have an answer for that. I forget what deal it was that was made public between ESPN and somebody. Was it the playoff for $3 billion or something?
Yeah, I think that was something. I think it was like that. I think.
Let me go find that one. I
Well,
was starting to
here's what
bring
I
that up
think.
earlier,
I
and
think what happened was the college
I
football
had it up on
playoff.
a PowerPoint.
Oh, I think the college football playoff made their new rules, and they allowed this whole new thing for playoff appearances. Does anybody see this? Playoff appearances, back appearances, right? I think that gave Clemson their little wink, wink, nod, nod. Remember, that decision came down. Clemson filed their lawsuit the next day and
Yeah,
said,
it was bing, bang, boom right there.
Yep.
It was that. All right, that's it. That's
you
it.
can't make this up. And that's another reason I think Miami could be in a little trouble. I'm not going in on Miami right now, even though I'm just absolutely disgusted by them. I've heard some people say maybe they made their vote so that they could hear the information and send it back to Florida State. Miami and Florida State are not working together on this, guys. I don't know what else to tell you. They're not.
No, they're not.
100% not.
I talked to a colleague of mine who, used to play there and knows the staff and everything. No, we are not working together on this. Miami is more content with staying in the ACC right now.
I
Florida
think
State
Miami is upset with staying in the ACC, but I don't think they've gotten the positive feedback that Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina did. I think there's a difference, and I think you can see the way people move, and you can tell there's a difference.
Yeah, I agree.
And Clemson didn't start making those moves until the college football playoff said, hey, you can get extra money in this revenue payout if you have multiple teams who have been to the playoff multiple times. However many playoff teams your conference has, which team has been there? I mean, if you have a couple teams that have been to the playoff, I mean, you think the Big Ten and SEC were like, well, Clemson's been there a couple times.
I'm telling you.
You put money in front of people's faces and they're like, it's like catnip, right? It's catnip.
It makes the world go around. There's no doubt about it.
Everybody thinks I'm crazy, but the moment that the college football playoff said that in their little contract-y thingy, guess what? Clemson filed their lawsuit and said, hey, we got free reign here. We got gifted one playoff spot. Yes, you did with the clipping. I'm already there. Thank you.
I mean, it's just not. And it shocks me. I mean, I'm glad they filed suit. I mean,
I am too.
Their complaint's a little bit different than ours, of course. Mm-hmm. I'm glad they filed suit, but at the same time, all of these universities have a fiduciary responsibility to fight back for their universities. They
absolutely have to. And the ones that aren't, I'm telling you right now, there's a reason that they aren't.
Yeah, they all wanted to see FSU go out there and run through the minefield. They wanted to see if they were going to step on it and blow up or if they were going to get through. Florida State's busted through. They're having success. Shit's really happening. Like we've talked about, when you see the disparity, when the ACC just lays down on the train tracks and says, oh, yeah, 31 million is fine for us. What I was talking about earlier, and as it, how the Clemson case affects this one, that's what Lamb was talking about in Clemson's suit. He says, Rohan let us know that the judge put it up on the screen that there's evidence in the Clemson suit that says that the deal between ESPN and the SEC is worth $3 billion. $3
billion, yeah.
And that's disclosure per Lamb, and I believe the judge agreed.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can't disclose it, but you can disclose it over here and over there, but just not here. It's like
you can do it wherever you want to, just not when people are obligated under the law to disclose that information to the public. Oh, they're so fun.
A doubt.
Yeah, the other one that I thought actually kind of did it help Florida's? I think, well, one, the argument that they never met, George, you and I had the disagreement on, right? Which was the PR department, but I think it was because we had our wires crossed. But I really, really liked the argument where the Florida State attorney actually turned it around and was like, hey, so if we just disclose this, would this be a breach of secrets? Like, like when he started his whole summation with a question, I kind of like that. And I think the judge did too.
I did too. I think they did a great job on that. I think they did a really great job on that part. It was like, and the part about, 6 pages have been disclosed, but it's 160 pages, something like that. What else is in there
16,
then?
16.
16.
16
So
pages.
what else is in there then? We got a lot more to go.
It's a moment from the movie Seven. What's in the box? What's in the box? Right?
Yeah. And I'll read that, I guess, since Jen brought it up again. This is exactly what it said and where our kind of confusion went up. But we were, like she said, we were both on the same page. When Stone got up there, finished up, ESPN got up there and he said, ESPN has not gone down to Florida. Korn emailed counsel for FSU and expressed that this might have been a mistake and asked FSU to talk with them. FSU never responded. Today is the first time they have spoken. Korn just learned that the ESPN PR department put out the entire complaint themselves in its entirety. And maybe, I don't know if Rohan's still in the chat. Maybe he could, it's under my assumption, the way I read that, in the middle of that statement or just now in the courtroom, they found out that the whole thing is actually released. So maybe if you're in there, you could answer that one.
Yeah.
Sorry, my cat is like being super annoying.
Did she give birth?
Not yet.
Jen's cat is prego as hell. She's about to have 3 or 4 babies.
Oh God.
Of course. Only me. All
right. Well, let's see. Doug says he wants to join for 10 minutes. We might as well send him the link.
Woohoo!
Let's see here.
Thanks, guys. Yes, she is. She's all right. She's really annoying. She's not mine.
So sorry, you guys can whatever y'all want to go with it. I'm going to be out of it for a minute here. So y'all.
Jen is the one that will like pick up a coyote because she thinks it's a stray dog.
I did. Guys, I was like driving down the interstate and I thought there was a dog on the side of the road that needed help. And like I pull over, it's during the day. This is so wild. So it's during the day and like I pull over, I'm on the interstate. Let me just continue. And it was a coyote, which means that it was like sick because, it's a night creature.
Yeah.
Means it had like, it's just, that's creepy. Yeah, I'm just dumb. I'm going to come home with a wolf one of these days. You can guarantee it.
You have a big heart. There's nothing wrong with that.
I do. I'm a rescue person. I do love to do that. I just love animals.
Animals are dogs are man's best friend. Like there's some that are raised wrong and, things can happen. But at the beginning, when they're born, they are peaceful and beautiful animals, and all dogs go to heaven. I'm of that opinion. So I'm right there with you. I'm not so strong on the cats. Like the cats stay in the barn, but they're cute. I'm coming around on cats. They really have their own character. It's like, I think it's Cat Williams that had the stand-up comedian where the dog runs up to you and he's like, oh, you're my buddy. I love you. The cat's like, I dare you bring your ass over and pet me, motherfucker. Like, what's up?
The cat wants you to earn their love.
So we got it. We had to bring Doug on because he was actually like the only person in there, Florida State, one of the only media people only. And I really got to get an answer to this one question that we were arguing about and agreeing at the same time. So what was up with that, man? What's up, Doug?
How's it going? Hello.
Hey, you made it home. All the traffic, all that good stuff.
And the rain. Atlanta traffic at 6 o'clock on a Friday in the rain. It was bad.
Awesome.
It was worth it though, right? You got front row seat to the house. Like everybody, this is like they gotta get cool film in there. We got to see the next one. Maybe in Florida with the sunshine laws, we can just get the cameras rolling because that was high stakes drama. Yeah. Me and Chris were on the phone for like an hour of like just going through reading the things, talking to everybody. It was a lot of fun.
We had a good time doing it. It was entertaining.
You
So
did
what
a great
questions you
job.
got? I only got a few minutes, and I don't want to upstage Danielle. She's been doing a great job. I've been listening. She's on point. But I figured you might have a few questions, just like you were asking.
Yeah, so let's let everybody get one, and I'll use mine up on that thing that me and Jim were talking about. When Corn gets up there, and he's arguing the motion to conceal. I said that wrong, but the to keep everything to prevent discovery.
Motion to
He says that he just, or you type that he just found out the ESPN PR department has released the entire grant of rights. Was that something that happened live in the courtroom, or that's just something that was just what he was saying, or that was literally while he's arguing that it should be sealed, he's finding out that behind his back, oh shit, they decided to release the whole thing. So I'm arguing for nothing.
I don't know if I mistyped it and put the grant of rights in. What we were talking about there was the ESPN agreement, because that's what ESPN is trying to keep under seal. But this is what is curious, and I feel a little bad if I'm the one that's the messenger that's getting this information out. But the judge was making hay, because in the argument for the motion to seal, one of the tests is, what have you done to keep this information secret? And the judge was pointing out, you guys haven't done anything in Florida. And FSU put out their agreement, their information, and you haven't scrambled to go try to make that, put that toothpaste back in the tube. And ESPN's argument was that they didn't want to raise attention, raise awareness of what they wanted out of the documents that were submitted by objecting to them. So their strategic decision was just, we're going to let it lie and hope that nobody figures out. But now that we've had this hearing, and thankfully I've had several thousand people following me on Twitter now, they want to go and take a look at the Florida filings and go through it really carefully, because apparently there's something in there that ESPN wants hidden and is trying to hide here in North Carolina. And so the final point on that, to the issue that Corn was saying, he was like, somebody just texted me that it was actually out on the ESPN website when Florida State filed it. So like all these other news agencies, they're sharing the PDFs, and ESPN's own department shared the entire PDF. Now they're trying to argue North Carolina needs to say secret. It was enjoyable.
Yeah, that was wild.
I guess that was a question when he found that out, was the bit of confusion.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if he was literally having somebody pass him a note, or somebody texted him, or if it was.
That's how I read it initially.
That was the impression we got in the courtroom.
Okay,
just kind of like, so yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
But I want he only has about 10 minutes, so I want Danielle and Jen to both get a question, and I'll sit back for the rest of it.
I'll let Danielle go first.
Because I've listened to your podcast you did earlier. You did such a great job. I wanted to thank you for keeping us all informed and going up there
awesome.
today.
He did the Lord's work today. There's no doubt.
Yeah, and just explain to people, because I know you have explained to people, because I know everybody's worried about the Clemson filing suit and the potential of consolidation and everything. Explain to people how you felt about the judge today. Because I know you had a good feeling, actually.
So you hit the nail on the head. The 10,000-foot view is FSU might win. I'm actually surprised. As I was driving 4 hours and digesting all this information and going on these other shows, I'm a verbal processor. I'm feeling better and better on where this judge was with his frustration with the ACC. He was really hammering them hard on this idea of material litigation, on the issue of the vote not being taken, and then this Gao case that they kept referencing. He was arguing along with the FSU attorneys that it's not on point. That Gao case that allowed the reauthorization or the pre-authorization by going back and ratifying, that was the word he was using, that was amending a second complaint, or correcting an amended complaint. Here, they're trying to correct the original complaint, to which the judge was saying it's one thing to correct an amended complaint by taking care of this technicality and relating back, because then at least the case was filed with valid jurisdiction initially. If the original complaint failed to meet that standard, then that initial filing is not valid. And you can't then make the subsequent amended complaint the initial complaint, because you can't amend an invalid filing. So technically, I think the judge, because he knows that these cases can get appealed and go to the Supreme Court, he doesn't want to get his hand slapped by any of the Court of Appeals or North Carolina Supreme Court. He's going to have to, I think, dismiss this case. Now, he will dismiss it without prejudice. The ACC will very simply correct this by taking the vote again, like Jen is saying, and it will be sloppy, it will be messy, and will it be after July 30th when we have 3 new members involved? But once they retake that vote and refile the complaint, even though it's no longer first in time, I think the totality of the Clemson suit being filed means that it's likely to still be kept in North Carolina. So it's a technical change. It's going to delay things, but I do think FSU wins on the dismissal, but then we come back and we refile, and we're in North Carolina anyway.
Okay. My other question is, how, if the judge says, of course, like, I'll dismiss without prejudice, right? Take the vote, but can't Florida State then come in with an argument to say that vote isn't the same as it would have been then?
But they're not filing they're not trying to ratify the December 21st filing. They will take the new complaint to their members and say, this is the complaint we want to file on April 15th. Ratify this.
I get that, but like, they still have to go back to the same people that voted for it in the beginning.
Sure.
Correct?
And why wouldn't they?
But can't Florida State then turn around and say this vote is different based off information given and based off of like almost a gun to your head?
Well, it goes to what I was saying. It's just the race of the courthouse is gone. It's just a new, it's a brand new. So that's what you're saying. It's just there's a new vote. A lot of people may say no, but I'm sorry.
Part of that was what the judge was trying to say when I was saying that, he was trying to lead the FSU attorney to the argument. He was trying to lead him to make the right point. The point that FSU's attorneys should have made was that at the time of filing, a harm had not occurred. There was not a breach. And so because of that, there was no justiciable controversy. Yep. But once the Board of Trustees met and voted and went forward with this and filed the suit in Florida, that's what now gives rise. And as a tangential issue, is a very comical part of the hearing where the judge was like, who is actually the plaintiff? Who is the defendant? Who is harmed? Because that was what they were trying to say. The plaintiff gets to decide where the suit is. He was attacking Florida State to that point. And he's like, aren't you both trying to say the same thing? Aren't you both trying to establish the same issue? Neither one of you are the plaintiff or the defendant until I decide. And that's when we figure out who gets harmed in this.
Was that the part where he was like trying to lead them into the argument, like, and Florida State kind of missed?
It was a
little rough. I'm not gonna lie to you about this. That was rough.
I hesitate to be critical because I'm not the one there taking the bullets. I'm not the one getting shot at, and it is hard. It's hard to keep your argument straight. This is a big case to decide. So to maintain all that information in your head, to keep your arguments consistent and accurate and well-reasoned, and then be getting interrupted, and you're getting interrupted by a question that you've got to listen to and start formulating your answers without forgetting where you were in your argument. It's not easy. It really isn't.
No, and it's even worse in appellate court.
This is not
you have multiple judges asking questions.
Uniform. I'm on my way to go camping in the rain, learning about wilderness first aid. So yeah.
Well, these kids need that stuff these days. That's cool, man.
Yeah, they do.
We all need it. Adults too.
I know you only have like 1 more minute or 2 more minutes or something if I'm looking at the clock right. But what are your? I know you don't think that it gets dismissed, or maybe it does get dismissed. It gets dismissed without prejudice and whatever. What about the stay? Because to me, the stay right now in this argument, after everything we're sitting here talking about, seems like the safest option to split the baby, do a stay, see what Florida says, see what maybe South Carolina says, and then decide to consolidate. And then my guess would be to go to federal court.
The tell from the judge, because where he's leaning in his questions, is why should I allow Florida to decide this issue when it will have an impact on all the remaining members? Why, especially now that Clemson has filed, should I let Florida and South Carolina decide something that's going to affect all the members, which is in ACC that's incorporated in North Carolina. The judge was telegraphing he wants to have all of the cases consolidated here with him because he is representing the state of North Carolina. But yes, that's where this is going to be most impactful as it radiates out to the members.
That's kind of what I got, and I love the judge for that. Basically, your race to the courthouse don't mean shit, but according to the law, here's the reason why I may keep it in North Carolina for you assholes, even though I'm trying to lead you to why, and you won't buy it. But I know you're out of time. Before you get out of here, I think the motion to seal is that's getting thrown out for sure, regardless of what happens with the dismiss. I really think, regardless. Let me finish.
Okay,
I don't think they're going to be able to seal everything. They may get a partial this or that, but there's going to be some information ESPN's going to have to answer in the ACC to some of the stuff in the contract. But that's just my prediction. So I know you only have a minute. So what's your prediction, final analysis, just on the two motions that were heard today as they're waiting on the third?
Yeah, that's the one that I'm least confident in, because I don't know how you rectify the issue that Florida State presented. Florida State's position is we are agents of a public university. If we see the contract, that places a burden on us to share it with our client and therefore the rest of the state and our membership. There is no way that we can give assent to the sealing. So they have to oppose the motion. My question is, and what I don't know is, okay, you oppose the motion to seal. I'm going to grant the motion to seal. You don't have any criminal liability under the Sunshine Laws. That's a way I think he could thread the needle and split the baby, but I don't know. Danielle has to answer about the technicalities of the Sunshine Law. Can an extra state, extra jurisdictional state, make that ruling? Who would appeal it? Who would challenge it? What's the entity that has standing to say you're not complying with Sunshine Laws? I don't know the answer to that.
I think Danielle spoke to it. Possibly he could apply the Sunshine Laws in North Carolina, and that would go to the motion to seal being kind of, I guess, void or getting thrown out was a bad wording on my part. Interesting stuff.
If he applies
interesting stuff. Law. Exactly.
If he does, which
he can, as long as he keeps the Clemson case and has multi-state suits.
Yeah.
And sitting in his lap, correct?
He can hold the case in North Carolina and base his judgments on Florida law and on South Carolina law. He has that authority. He's not bound and restrained only by North Carolina law. And to that point, the judge made that very clear today also. Mm-hmm. Both state laws are pretty similar. It'd be one thing if it was Louisiana that has batshit crazy laws that are completely different from all other 49 states. But in this case, Florida and North Carolina laws are similar enough.
Try Alaska.
That he's going to go ahead and deal it.
Try Alaska. That's some wild shit. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate you. We're not going to pressure you to stay on all night, man. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us the time, man.
Take care.
So glad you made it in the rain. Have a good one.
Boom. So I guess you can take off right there, I guess, on that conversation about the Sunshine Laws. Do you think he's apt to do that? Seemed like Doug was more like he could, but it seems like he was kind of feeling the opposite of what I was feeling on the motion to seal there.
He could, but he also, he didn't make the point. ESPN did. The point is that these agreements have never, ever been ordered to be made public. This would be
but did you see the question from the judge after that? They've never so they've never been disclosed, or they've never been ordered to be disclosed, right? I mean, did you see how they split that?
ESPN did admit that yes, they have been. There was a bit of, I'll pull it up.
Yes. So there was a whole I do feel like Florida State made some leeway on this one. I just feel like ESPN, I cannot imagine their attorneys really didn't expect that question from a judge to say, why didn't you file this in Florida?
And especially given that they have an obligation, if they're trying to protect something, they have an obligation to try to seal it up on every front, not just in North Carolina, but here too, anywhere where it's an issue. And it's definitely an issue in the Florida suit. We all know that. Obviously, there's something, like Doug said, we can all go ask for something.
I mean, there's something in these documents because, what is in there? This seems so exciting.
It
I feel
is.
like I'm
It
like
really is.
watching National Treasure, like with those goggles, you know, and the fake paper, you know. Like, how do we see what's written on these documents? It's apparently amazing. Like, is it the
Yeah.
lottery numbers that's going to win us all $5 million if we read these? I
Like
don't
you said,
know.
it's secret government ink. It's something. It could be whatever you said the other night. I mean, something's
So,
up.
so this is the exact thing, and I want to hear your rebuttal to it. Or you guys can both continue y'all's conversation. Judge Bledsoe, has any agreement with any conference been ordered to be disclosed? Corn disclosed? Yes, but the subject to strict protective orders to prevent public disclosure. Corn continues, these are trade secrets, no special sauce required to create a trade secret, yada. ESPN has made extensive expert efforts to keep the material safeguarded if there is a disclosure. There is no unringing of the bell. It can't be undisclosed. Last point, the ACC, if they are in breach, does not cause the agreement to no longer be protected. They cannot be penalized by the bad acts of others.
One question, Danielle, you're the attorney. If I was sitting in that room and that was what was said about the trade secrets, the formulas, right? And then the judge said about Coke and Pepsi. All right. My rebuttal would say, cool. Can we have someone in judges' chambers look at this to tell us what formula is such trade secrets to this contract that says if it gets out, it's going to cause company harm? What is said formula? Let's let the judge take a look at it, because judges are impartial, correct?
Exactly.
Or no?
Exactly.
Can
And
they
VC,
not
he
look
says
at these documents?
even the judge only gets 13 pages. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's a great point, VC. No, I appreciate it. But like, how in the world is a judge not allowed all the documents to sit here and say, should I seal it or not? Because to me, that judge could look at it and say, this is material or it's not.
And he came out and said as much. He came out as the judge literally came out and said as much, because the ACC said, well, you know, FSU's trying to do this. The judge said, no, the FSU wants me to read the contract and yada, yada, and make a decision. It's like,
yeah.
And that's what we want. And to VC Noel's point, like, yeah, okay. So maybe there's a motion to seal and they have the stipulations to keep it from public knowledge, but inside the damn courtroom, that's kind of, I guess, what my part of the motion to seal. Like, maybe I misunderstood it, but I thought the motion to seal meant it doesn't even come out in the court at all. But I guess the argument is if it comes out in the court at all, then it's public.
Oh, no,
then somebody knows, then it can get rights requests.
No.
But
the motion to seal is just the judge reading it. Just the judge finding out and deciding whether or not this can be added to the lawsuit as far as evidence. Danielle, am I right or wrong?
No, because the whole motion to seal came from them attaching exhibits.
Yeah,
we're all wanting to
but
attach.
Like, what we're saying is if this can come out in the courtroom or if not, right?
It depends on the ruling. I mean, the judge can do stuff what we call in camera, where he's going to review it by himself, things like that. Florida State's argument is still going to be sunshine law, and they're strong. I mean, that's
absolutely.
They have a responsibility.
Yeah, and the judge actually was very on the state side here. I was very impressed with that. He was like, he yelled at that attorney and was like, only if it's like going for the law of the state of the school you're talking to. Like, are you dumb? Like, I felt like that's what he wanted to say at the end of this.
Yeah, he took that jab back. It's subject to the state jurisdiction. And I think ESPN's argument about, well, you're going to have 7 different states, all able to get it because of one state, because if it becomes record in public record in Florida, blah, blah, blah. Look, that's not our problem. Florida is Florida. Florida has their own laws. You have to abide by our own laws. So I'm sorry. If you're going to subject us to venue and jurisdiction up there, because we're doing business in the state of North Carolina, as was brought up today, then guess what? You're doing business in the state of Florida here too. And we are subject to turn those documents over if asked. It's a public issue, and that the Sunshine Law is ironclad as you get. You want to talk about ironclad? That's ironclad.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was getting at earlier when I was, after Rohan first went off. Like, yes, I said that I think the motion to seal will be, thrown out, but in that, I could definitely see what you're talking about. Some kind of in camera, something like that. I just don't see where the judge allows the ACC and ESPN without, the judge not to at least be able to see some of this stuff and it be able to enter it in the evidence. But if there's some way they can, like ESPN alluded to in the past, that they disclosed it, but with stipulation so it didn't get out to the public. And if that happens, I feel confident, 100% confidence that, whatever that's in there that they're trying to hide, the judge would look at and laugh at and rule in FSU's favor as well. So it's very fun to see what happens.
They're just going to make him mad by acting the way they're acting. And that's not really where you want to be in this litigation right now. So good luck to them on that argument.
You could tell the judge was very aggravated with their initial arguments, even though I thought they did a good job with their arguments. But when the judge came in with his questions, that's when they lost their luster, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when he started questioning them, on that issue, and that
was so wild to me because they were so good, they were so prolific. It was great. It was like going seamlessly. I was like, oh hell. And then the judge asked this question, and I just went, he must be an UNC alumnus. Excuse me. They went out of this clown show too. So again, I mean, I don't know if I'm right or not. I'm just saying, like, when he asked that question, that attorney was like, my brain stopped. It was like a boop, boop, beep. It was weird.
It's really hard. You have to be very quick on your feet. That's for sure. Because you go in and you have all these arguments prepared and you know what you want to argue, the points you want to hit. And then the judge has already read your pleadings as well and has questions specifically in their mind that they want to ask you that you aren't even prepared for. So it's kind of like getting blindsided. Like I said, it's worse in appellate court because you have more than one judge asking questions. And it's just, yeah.
On TV, on Suits, they make it seem like all these lawyers, like you're just on the fly, completely changing. You get a piece of evidence in your pocket, and now you've got this whole brilliant speech laid out. It's not quite that easy. But my opinion, the first one was a little rough. I was sweating a little bit. But as far as the motion to seal, I thought, they made them look silly. FSU absolutely got the better of it. And that judge was roasting. Both Sarah Stone got roasted, and Cooney both got roasted. But we got our first caller on the line. Ooh. You're live. This is a 954 number. Could it be Tiny Hat? Who we got live on the line? Welcome on the show.
Yes. Shout out to everyone here. The Tiny Hat CEO has returned to the Renegade Rundown. How y'all doing in here today, George? I see my girl Jen up here with her green on. I got shocked just now because I thought she was going to be rocking some garnet or some gold out here, but she's putting on that green, so I don't know if she's out here hanging out in the forest getting her handbag going, but we're going to let that slide today.
Hey, let's go
to the Danielle, to the Tiny Hat CEO attorney out here, how you doing out here today as well? Here's what I wanted to go over with you, okay? I always figured that this judge was going to be biased because they were up there in North Carolina, but you know what? I wanted to go over the top 5 things that we as the Tiny Hat gang are going to be offering to this judge to just go ahead and get us up out of this whole thing, okay? We getting rid of all of this. We need this judge to just accept our offers. These are our offering chips that we got to get us up out of this, okay? Number 5. Okay, we're going to give him a nice Tiny Hat FSU hat. That's what we're going to do. He can rock that when he goes up there and he makes his ruling to say, Florida State, just go ahead and get up out of here. We're going to let y'all go. The ACC is full of frauds. Number 4, Okay, we're gonna give him a nice chilled bottle of that Hennessy VSOP, not the regular $89 bottle. We're gonna give him the $250 bottle that you can get from Sunrise Liquors over there on Oakland Park Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Okay, number three, we're gonna give him a nice Big Ten garnet and gold studded tie that he can wear underneath his robe, just so that people will know that he was the linchpin that allowed us to get out of this rat ass conference. Okay, number two, we're going to give him a picture of Mario Cristobal wearing Florida State shoes, and they're going to be high-heeled Florida State shoes, because I'm tired of seeing him with them loafers out here on the recruiting trail. And the number one thing that we're going to give to this judge to just go ahead and make this ruling to get us up out this plebeian-ass conference is the picture of John Swaffer and Jim Phillips wearing the women's underwear that they have to wear. And that's why they don't want us to see the ESPN contract, because ESPN got the dirt on them boys. They got the dirt on them. That's why they signed this raggedy deal. That's why they keep trying to hide this raggedy deal. They are caught in just beautiful 4K footage, rocking these underwear out here, and they don't want everybody to know that they deviants in these streets. Okay, we're gonna turn over those documents so that everybody can see why the ACC is being treated like a third-rate conference in college football. Okay, we got all of the proof over here. So to the Judge Bledsoe, we love what you got going on, but the Tiny Hat Gang is coming with the big guns to make sure that you get us out of this conference, baby. Just reach out to me whenever you're ready. You can find me on Twitter, and I'll be able to slide. You can slide right in my DMs, and I got your back, baby. Tiny Hat Gang, we out.
As always, Tiny Hat comes in, he gets it done, he drops the top 5 list. Amazing stuff. Apparently, the Swafford family's out here stealing luggage from airports and going through and getting underwear out of it. I got to get with him, follow up on this story after the show. But that was amazing.
Wait,
you know,
what?
look forward in the future for the Renegade Roast or something like that. That's the first kind of pilot name we've got on it. But we've got some production meetings. Ken, my boy Tiny Hat, and also my girl Jen Knoll, 2013. Maybe a little fun show that's on here, a little bit less serious, as we are on here, always talking about the future of the program and serious stuff like lawsuits. Love to have him here as part of the Renegade Report family, and we always love hearing him from the show. Michael Bett says he finally got to get here for a live stream for the first time ever. Hell yeah, man. We appreciate you, man. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. And you can be with us from now on. We have a lot of fun. Again, the phone number is up on the screen. Anybody can call in, not just Tiny Hat. It's 850-495-1906. If you have any questions for me, Jen, or of course our amazing attorney, Danielle, feel free to call in. We usually go an hour and a half. Once we really wrap up all this at the very end, I'm probably going to go on a little 20-minute rant about practice and the pro day and everything going on as well, because I know you guys want to hear about that as well. But of course, the law case takes precedent. As we get our second caller in here, you are live on the Renegade Rundown.
Hello, good night. Thank you for having me. I'm actually, I'm Gio. I'm originally from Georgia, but I recently live in Pensacola.
Okay.
And my thing is, I'm not really a ACC or FSU fan, but I'm more like an outsider. Because, like I said, I'm from Georgia.
You're breaking up there a little bit on me, brother.
Oh, no.
If you had a question, if you could try to start fresh with that.
Oh, okay, what about right now? Are you hear me better?
Yep.
Yes. My thing is, right? I know that this is mostly FSU, right? But my thing is, so if that contract was supposed to get breaking up, do you see a lot of these schools in the future, like say NC State or say maybe a SMU or those new schools, would they be end up like the Oregon State or the Washington State in the future? Because really and truly, there's not really any more money in the market like that for them.
Yeah.
So what do you think that this is going to be? A lot of schools are trying to get out of this ACC, right? But in the end, I think a lot of these schools are going to be hurt in the long run because there's going to be no place for them to go.
Absolutely,
That's
man.
just my
That's a great point, and we'll definitely talk about that, man. We appreciate you calling in.
Okay, thank you.
Great point.
Yeah, so it goes to what we've been talking about. And as an FSU fan, some people have taken offense and kind of talked crap about us for doing it, but you're absolutely right. There's only so many spots in the Big Ten. There's only so many spots in the SEC, and within the ACC, there's only so many national title contenders. It's basically FSU and Clemson. So when they get out of there, it's going to be a scramble. Where are these people going to go? Buddy, I think UNC, I think not so much NC State. We'll see if they can do it. Virginia, just because of the politics. There's going to be a few schools that make it into the SEC and the Big Ten, but the majority of them will probably end up in the Big 12, or it's going to be like a new G5, just a little bit less than league. It's just the future of what it is, but nothing's changed now. Like Syracuse was never going to win the ACC and make it to the college football playoff. It's just they've been soaking up a paycheck off the top quarter of the thing. And if you guys have a comment on that, and then we'll get another caller in as soon as we get a chance.
I have one thing. So the one thing I will say is that I think if you look at the ACC and we want to talk about teams that have, somewhere to go, I think right now comfortably let's just look at the tea leaves. It's Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina right now. That's it. That is it. However, North Carolina's got to get unattached from NC State, and that didn't go their way 2 to 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. Virginia's got to get away from Virginia Tech. Miami is still out there. There are so many in the big, or in the ACC that I can, I said Miami, I almost said the Big East. But there's so many that you can look at. But if you want to start right now, there's 3 teams right now that have either a wink, wink, nod, nod. And we know that from the way they're moving, right? I mean, we can read the tea leaves. That's North Carolina, Clemson, and Florida State. Yes. I do think that a lot of people think North Carolina is going to go automatically to the Big Ten. I think if North Carolina ends up in the SEC,
I think that's the consensus of where NCC is going, is the SEC.
I don't know. I think a lot of people think North Carolina. I'm just saying, if North Carolina ends up in the SEC, I think that opens the door for Miami, possibly. But I'm the only one to believe that it falls to Georgia Tech. I really am.
No, I mean, I don't think I've already said I get that argument a lot. So I get that argument a lot, but she's right. There's a lot that people don't understand with NC State and UNC and Virginia Tech and Virginia. We also have to remember the state of Virginia itself is leading a huge charge against the NCAA right now on NIL. So they're willing to take some risks. I guess we'll see how that all ends up. But
I think it's more of a given that UNC does go to the SEC, because I think the SEC will pick up NC State should that be where UNC goes. But some other SEC schools may really be adamant against this, because they bring, no offense, but let's be honest. What value do those two bring? Let's be real.
Absolutely.
Real quick here. I know everybody thinks North Carolina brings all this value, and I'm totally into North Carolina. I get where their value comes in. But NC State brings zero. Nothing. Nada. Nada. Absolutely nothing. They bring no champion, no playoff. Like I said at the beginning, that new rule that they just voted on that allowed Clemson to go be like, hey, look at this stuff. This college football playoff appearances. North Carolina and Clemson or NC State have zero. Okay, zero.
I agree 100%. And we appreciate your call. You don't have to be an FSU fan. You don't have to necessarily be an ACC person. You can come on here and we will get you answered. Spear Addicts in the chat. What's up, folks? Get ready. More news coming. When he says that, buckle up. News is coming. Our brother Spear Addicts Media over there, Chris Frazier. There's a lot of stuff coming down the pipe. We snuck in some UNC obvies and some stuff in our thumbnails. Chris been giving hints. We've been talking about it. Then it goes public. People want to say we do clickbait, we do this, do that. Well, when the shit we start saying, like when it stops happening, when the info I get from Chris stops being true, we'll stop, doing what we're doing. But until then, we're gonna keep rocking. Chris and James, they've been on this shit for almost 3 years. So it's a lot of fun. But we do have a caller live with another question. Sorry it took a minute to get you up here, but you are on the Renegade Rundown.
Hey, no problem. Yeah, this is Nick. I have a kind of futuristic question a little bit because I'm pretty confident this is going to settle thanks to all the work you guys have put in. University endowments. I know that ours is kind of small compared to like almost everyone else. I mean, we're a young university. In the Big Ten, how fast can that grow? What kind of rate do you think we could get that to help grow the university?
As like grow the endowment and, yeah, that's a great question, Nick. Appreciate you. I'll be quick and let y'all go, but I think it can be big time. I think you grow a lot, like immeasurably. I think because of the plans to go to the Big Ten include getting that AAU certification,
Yep.
includes a $116 million football only facility, includes a medical research building on campus that's going to be leased out to different companies and stuff. You open up the opportunities to partner with the Andrews Institute. You're increasing the stadium. Your alumni base is getting older and older. So yeah, definitely, Nick. I think, and especially, whatever, you double your PV money, you double this, you double that, all across the board. I definitely think it's going to be I don't know. We'll have to talk to our buddy Tony about it and see how fast he thinks it can hop up, because that's the stuff he really likes to geek on. But yeah, I definitely think so. Bam, we got another caller coming in.
Oh,
jeez Louise. Okay. Did y'all have something to comment? Y'all can, or we can go on to the next one.
I was honestly just going to say the endowment would grow with the Big Ten way more than it would with the SEC. That's just all I would say.
That agreed completely.
That you think it would be faster in the Big Ten than the SEC? Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
I think that's the whole thing. More value to Fox because you're just another team in the Southeast down there. But we got our next caller with a 850 area code. I like this one. This means he's somewhere between Pensacola and Tallahassee. You're live on the Renegade Rundown.
Love the show, and I'm in Tallahassee.
There we go.
Got a statement and 2 questions for you.
All right, let's have it.
All right, number 1 is, Jen, just give the judge one of your kittens, so every time he looks at it, he can call it Jim. My questions are, number 1 is, what do you think about the difference between what the North Carolina AD said and what the Board of Trustees spokesman came out and said? And my second question is why does it kind of seem like the Florida court date doesn't seem to matter?
All righty. Great question. Do you want me to get him to repeat those? Repeat your 2 questions one more time.
Okay. What do you think about the difference in the what the AD of North Carolina said,
okay, Bubba
and the Board of Trustees guy said?
Gotcha. Okay.
And then why does it seem like the Florida court date doesn't seem to matter?
All right. Appreciate you, man. We will definitely answer those. I think the second one, the reason that the second Florida court date doesn't matter just is because right now is March 22nd, and that's when this one's going on in North Carolina. And they also have the ability, since ACC did technically file their first. In the first one, yeah, that was very interesting, the difference. But I'm going to lean more with what Bubba Cunningham said, because he's the one that flipped. He was totally against everything last year. And Clemson did the same thing where they made public comments, but were also playing both sides with the ACC. I think that's just pretty much what we're seeing there as far as that goes. But I digress to you gals.
There's a conflict there, most definitely. Based on the article, based on the report. However, I think we, realize Board of Trustees rule out on these issues these days. So UNC is unhappy. They've been unhappy. We know that to be a fact. So I think that's eventually everybody's going to get on the same page, or they wouldn't they'd be responding to what was said last night or yesterday, whenever that report came out. I think it was last night. So I'm with you. They'll eventually get on the same page, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did something sooner rather than later. And let me tell you, if you want to see all hell break loose, wait till one of those Tobacco Road schools.
Yes, I mean, speak on it, and that's the thing. Like, there's a lot of stuff that FSU wants to see that UNC probably has in their hands right now.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
again, as these teams add up, as you've got your second, now you've got your third. You've already seen Clemson referring to Florida State's lawsuit, okay? And you've got the judge himself putting up Clemson's lawsuit in the North Carolina courtroom when Florida State starts speaking about it. So it's very clear that the facts of each case will be important to the next. And to me, doesn't that seem that like that's in the multiple legal teams' interest? Like, at least with him talking about merging them and it's going to the same judge, at least the ACC won't have to have 3 different legal teams all for North Carolina, which I was pissed about at first, but I guess it kind of really does make sense. But it would sure be nice if they had to pay for double. But
yeah, and I wouldn't, and on that I wouldn't. Yeah, I'm with you, because it's going to save the ACC money. Let's be honest, if all the cases end up consolidated. But at the same time, I can't say the April 9th hearing doesn't mean anything, especially because we will not have a written ruling out of the North Carolina court for a while, based on the hearing today. Even if the motion to dismiss is not granted, or the motion to stay is not granted, or whatever happens with the motion to seal, that's not, the Florida judge is allowed to do what the Florida judge wants to do under Florida law. So I know it kind of feels like the April 9th doesn't matter right now because we had that hearing today, but it still does, very much so. There is a case pending in the state of Florida that ESPN hasn't even bothered to seal documents on. So there you go.
absolutely, I agree, man. But yeah, that's what all the everything points to. And again, guys, the lines are open. We've got a little bit more time. If you have any questions, you can still call in. But I want to spend a little bit of time before we get out of here talking about the pro day and everything. Wow, what a performance out there for the pro day. I'm not sure how much you ladies caught with all the courthouse shit going on, but a few really important things, like Akeem Dent. He wasn't at the combine, so he was able to perform at his pro day. He ran a 4.38 is what kind of the consensus is, from the coaches and the different people that I've seen posting about it. I think one of the media guys had it at 4.31 on their iPhone, but we'll stick with the 4.38 that we heard. Trey Benson hits 23 reps on the bench. He's the only player that had, I believe, a sub 4.40 and also hit 23 reps on the bench. Braden Fisk hit this one drill. I'm not sure exactly what the drill, some kind of cone drill, shuttle drill, where he had to pick up towels and things off the ground along the way. That dude is so extremely coordinated and such a freak. It's really unbelievable. You can tell he had some issues and was kind of dinged up during the season. Watching him perform, it's so sad that we didn't get to see him in the playoff and perform. But it really is a beautiful thing. I believe we had 15 or 16 guys out there. Also, Casey Roddick, also getting a look out there. The offensive line with I guess he's got close to 3,000 snaps now in his career going to the NFL. All of them just saying great things about Florida State University. But was there anything to y'all that really stood out with spring camp starting and the pro day here the past couple of days? That'll probably be, we'll see. It's hard to ignore this stuff, but I promise we're going to really dig in, and I'll have a show really digging into that probably Sunday.
I like that Brock was the one throwing the passes for Keon, and since Jordan was hurt, I did like that. I thought that showed some sort of, and nothing against CJ, obviously. I think it was just a team building, they were the ones who were with him. So I did like that. That's what I liked.
Yeah, it was cool seeing all the alumni, Rashad Green on campus, even a guy like Deontay Sheffield.
I did not see Rashad Green.
I believe he's the leading rusher in a single season at Niceville High School. really just a great part of the program all the way up and down. To see Ernie Simms, that's something we haven't talked about on the show. So it's not official, okay? I'm not reporting that he's officially part of the staff or anything, but he was at the pro day wearing a badge that said staff about it. And when Coach Norvell was asked about it Thursday, I'm not sure who asked him the question, but they said, is Ernie Simms on staff? Is there a plan to bring him on staff? Mike looks and he's like, can I announce that? And he looks over, can I say something about that? And his SID or somebody's like, I mean, you can say he's here. Okay, he's here. I mean, he's not here in official capacity, but he is here. And so it's like, guys, if you can't read between the lines, Ernie Simms coming on in a support role, pretty freaking amazing. There's some other rumors out there. There's some other former players that are, kind of hanging around the courtroom and making tweets. You can go follow the kind of tea leaves. I don't want to ruin anything or mention any names, but yeah, there's more to come, as we've talked about, and as Chris has let us all know multiple times a while back that these kind of hires were coming. So it's a lot of fun, and I'm really excited. Ernie Simms, he was like the #1 recruit, I think, of like all time. He had a perfect score. Pretty amazing, pretty cool dude to see out there. It was cool seeing him get to, I guess he hadn't met Rashad Green or something, so he got to go up to him and be like, man, look, I seen you catch a lot of balls, and they were cutting it up there at the pro day, so that was a lot of fun to see for sure.
Rashad Green was there. That's
yeah, it's a picture of consistency.
Simms, I mean, come on,
everybody.
I need a DNA sample. Not for any other reason other than, maybe I just want to make amazing football teams. I don't know. Not my fault.
ARL says, may I kindly ask, where in Florida does attorney Danielle Kelley practice law? If you want to answer, you can.
Tallahassee, Florida. I am in Tallahassee. Florida. Only licensed in Florida. I practice in Tallahassee and the outlying counties such as Gadsden, Jefferson, Wakulla, all the way up to Calhoun and Jackson, Liberty, stuff like that. Pretty much the Big Bend of Florida. So that's me.
Absolutely. But yeah, get RG80 to the tailgate. Absolutely. If we can make that happen, Rashad, if you're watching, you got to come to the tailgate. CJ Wilson, James Coleman, Chris Frazier, be there. If I had to guess, he'll probably be there.
We'll have to sedate Jen.
Yeah, I can't do this. Like, y'all are talking about like Peter Warwick and all these things. I am supposed to be a normal human being and supposed to be on my best lady behavior. Okay.
Yeah, not to give away much about Jen's proclivities, but Rashad Green, yeah, he's right there in that wheelhouse. So we'll see. We won't let her attack you, Rashad. Just come on.
Like what?
I like throwing funny words out. But again, we're at 1 hour and 27 minutes. We usually go about 1.5 hours. But we're having so much fun. We've almost got 200 people live in here still. Let's talk about practice a little bit. We've only had 2 practices, only in helmets. We don't have the full pads yet. I believe the very next practice is going to be the first one in full pads. But everything we've got back, everything I've talked about, it's kind of like the hype is real. Marvin Jones Jr., they keep track of like explosivity. They keep track of the speeds these guys reach and stuff. He was like the most explosive player out at practice the other day. He's rocking that number 7. If you're watching these practice videos, he's an absolute freak. I mean, I don't even know what he looks like. It looks like Christian Jones back when he was rocking that 7, where it's just like a complete Spartan. I'm not sure if their measurements are the exact same, but I mean, just an absolute freak. When you see him doing those pass rushing drills and stuff, it really sets it off. I was able to talk to James Coleman for the past 2 years. That's been kind of what let me know if I can talk shit, if the shit that I was talking was true. And yeah, he was blown away, everything. If you haven't watched his practice breakdown, go check that out at the media group from last night. Go check out Chris Frazier's breakdown from everything. They really get into all that stuff. And like I said, we're going to get a lot deeper into it Sunday after the first padded practice, I believe, on Saturday, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, a ton of fun. All the wide receivers. Yeah. The wide receivers breaking in. Malik Benson has been a beast. He's
Ugh.
freshman.
Did you see his photos?
Oh yeah. Looks like he's been in Storm's, program
Okay,
for 4 years. Same thing
I'm
with Cam
sorry.
Davis.
That's the one I was about to say. Excuse me. When did we get someone who looked as ripped as James Wilder Jr.? And by the way, when that kid came here, I was like, who the fuck was blocking him when he was 18?
Right.
That's the same thing I'm saying about Cam Davis right now. Who was this poor high schooler being like, hey, you got to go out there and go block Cam? I'd be like, I'm good. I have a stomach virus. I don't know. I have corona. I don't know. Like, I got something.
He looks like
'Cause it's not gonna be
NFL Frank Gore. That's what he looks like running around. No
ridiculous.
neck, just yoked. Giant arms, giant legs. James kept saying, he said it 2 or 3 different times. He thought that was Roy Dell. He was like, that's the running back from Alabama? And they're like, no, that's the true freshman. It's like, my goodness. And we forget about guys like Sam Singleton. Toa Philly looks like a different dude. Patrick Payton. Have y'all seen the pictures of Patrick Payton? I mean, he is massive.
What Coach Storms does is just,
It's a thing of beauty. It's a thing of beauty.
What the hell do you even say? Everybody
He did
wants to
it
talk
in
about this.
Memphis. All I gotta say.
I'm like, y'all don't have Coach Storms. I don't give a dang about nothing.
And by the way, he would like run down the street a lot. I ain't bad.
I can't keep getting outnumbered. I got to get another guy in here on these things.
Yeah, you're gonna have to, because look, let me tell you something. That man run down the street with no shirt on, like.
I wouldn't doubt it. The man, he's got one hell of a weight conditioning program. I'll tell you that. Everything around the team, they've said it's the strongest team, the fastest team. Look, we lost a bunch of experience. We lost some great guys, but I strongly urge everybody, go back and look at 2012. You get 11 guys drafted. Everybody thinks, oh, it's going to take a little while. You got a freshman quarterback, and all of a sudden it's the most talented team in FSU history the very next year. We'll say that's arguable with 93 and 99, but one of the best ever. I really think that it might have been the most talented overall, that 2013 team. But we could go on forever, guys.
I mean, of course,
kind of rambling at this point, but anything you guys want to get at? Any closing statements before we get out of here?
Well, one, the 2013 team was the best college football team ever. I think
Tell
the
'em.
proof is in the pudding. With who was drafted, who played in the NFL. I mean, just the point spreads in those games. I mean, it was ridiculous. And that, when they got their, what was it? What was the word, George? Come on, tell me what they used. What did ESPN? They hadn't met any adversity, right? The whole year, because they were just beating the shit out of all their teams. So there was no adversity. You had to play Auburn, right? Auburn had to steal signs the whole game. And anybody who doesn't believe this, I really don't know what to tell you. Like, everybody knows this. Even Jameis said something after the game about them stealing signs. Like, let's be real.
Guys, I love you. I've got to close this down. We've got to get out of here. It's been a blessing. Make sure you go check out Jen Santee 1890 on X. Danielle Kelley, say it for me. Danielle _ Kelley, or is it D Kelley 21?
D Kelley 21. There you go.
I remember. I'm sorry, guys, but I have a guest in the yard, so it was one of those things. The timings ran a little bit over, but I had an absolute blast. And we will see you guys next time.
Georgie's got a date.
Yes, well, she said it, not me. Love you guys.